الناس أرجان السلام عليكم. غير هذه فوالا هنا هاي. دونك نبداو بالدرس ديالنا اللي هو ديال restrictive pronouns, restrictive clauses, restrictive and non-restrictive clauses. دونك غنقلب على فوالا restrictive search. فوالا الكاميرا نحودها هنا شويه. دونك فوالا الدرس سميتو restrictive versus non-restrictive clauses. هاد الدرس كيعتمد بزاف على relative pronouns. Today we will do only who, which and whose because this is what we have in the gateway to English in the lesson. Which ones? Voila. So if you realize, or as you know, who is used for, yes, people. If you guessed it, you guessed it right. And then which is used for things, and then whose is used for possession, which means ownership of things or people. Milkiya. Now we will see these in examples so you can understand more. Next, and here are our examples. For example, I met a woman, she speaks Japanese. To link or relate the second sentence to the first, what should we use? Who, which, or whose? Did you guess it? I think so. Let's try. So yes, I met a woman who speaks Japanese. We have a woman, and that's it. Next, read the following sentences. I met a woman who can speak Japanese. Like we said, who is for women, for things, for people. And then, second example, she bought a car which was red. We have which. We use it for things and objects. Now the last one. This is Mrs. Smith, whose son works in my office. Used for possession. Why? Even if we have Mrs. Smith, the son belongs to her. So this is what it is about. The son belongs to Mrs. Smith. That's why we have whose. So now the lesson begins. What we have just done is a little review about relative pronouns. Now the lesson begins of restrictive versus non-restrictive clauses. So now head to your My Way to English, not Gateway to English, My Way to English, and go to page 27. And then you will find something like this. The lesson on the right, which is non-restrictive and restrictive clauses. Now, assuming you are in this page, 27, let's begin. Now let's go to more examples. Look at this example. The film was boring. The film was boring. What is the question you might ask? If I tell you the film was boring, what's the question you're going to ask me? Yes, you will ask which film. We don't know. That's why if I say the film which I watched yesterday was boring. The film which I watched yesterday was boring. Now, this relative clause identifies which film we're talking about. That's why it's important to use the relative clause. And if you notice, there are no commas because it's important and we cannot delete it. Now, we know which film. So the film I watched yesterday, not any film, just the one I watched yesterday. Here the film is defined. And this is what we call relative or restrictive clause. restrictive clause, or identifier. Identifier because it identifies, it tells us which film we're talking about. So there are two types of relative clauses. Restrictive, which means defining, restrict, when we limit something and we identify it, and then non-restrictive clauses. So the meaning and the use. We have restrictive clauses identify the person or thing that is being talked about. For example, the woman who lives next door is very kind. The restrictive clause is who lives next door. So if we say the woman is very kind, the woman is very kind, you will ask the question, which woman? That's why we said the woman who lives next door, not any woman. That's why we have to identify the woman. Who is this woman? Now let's go to the next, which is non-restrictive clauses. Remember, we only have two, restrictive and then non-restrictive. Non-restrictive clauses give additional information, just additional information about the person or thing that is being talked about. This is an example. Agadir, which is a tourist city, is beautiful. Now let me ask you the question. Can we say Agadir is beautiful? Agadir is beautiful. Yes, we can. You're right. Why? Because there is only one Agadir in the world. Well, hopefully. Just like if we say France is nice, and we don't need which is a tourist city, we can delete it because it's just additional information. If you see, it's only additional information. That's why it's not really important. Now let me ask you this question. What is the difference between these two? What is the difference between this and this? Look at it. Yes, first difference is we have no commas in the first one, and in the second one, non-restrictive, we must have commas. It's very important to have commas because it's not important to have that clause, which means, as I said before, Agadir is beautiful. We can do without which is a tourist city. We can delete which is a tourist city because it's not important. It's just like between brackets, like we say in Darija, Baina Qawsayn. But the woman is very kind. We can't do without who lives next door because we don't know which woman. Not all the women are very kind. That's why the woman who lives next door is very kind. This is important, and there are no commas. And this is now the rules which you should remember. Restrictive clauses identify the person or thing that is being talked about. They are essential to understand. While non-restrictive clauses in green color, if you notice, this is for this and this is for this colors. Non-restrictive clauses give additional information. They are used with commas and can be deleted because they're not important. Okay? Restrictive and non-restrictive clauses, now pay attention. They also have another name. If you remember a while ago, I mentioned that we're lucky with Gateway to English because the most important lessons, we've already done them. In Gateway to English, we call this lesson restrictive and non-restrictive clauses. But in Insight to English, we call it defining and non-defining relative clauses. Which means if ever you encounter a question in the national exam about restrictive clauses, but they used defining and non-defining title or name, just remember it's the same. Don't panic. Don't think this is a lesson you haven't heard of, like defining, non-defining. It's simply restrictive and non-restrictive clauses. Restrictive and non-restrictive clauses, defining and non-defining clauses, it's the same lesson. It's just different titles, different books, and that's it. Move on. So, what is the difference between the two sentences? First sentence, the film which I watched yesterday was boring. The second sentence, Agadir, which is a tourist city, is in Sus Valley. So what is the difference? The difference is, as usual, if you remember we did it before, you can pause the video until you find the answer. Yes, you guessed it right. The difference is the commas. And then, this is, as we said before, very important. It cannot be deleted, and it is a restrictive clause, an identifier. It identifies the film. So this is identified by this. And then we have the next one. It is not important. It can be deleted, and we call it non-restrictive or non-defining, and it only gives extra information which we can do without, which we can delete. And as I said before, بحال إلا قلنا بين قوسين, between brackets, like يهضر معك شي حتى يقول لك بين قوسين راه whatever تاع. Here we have this, just think of it like between brackets, بين قوسين, and that's it. Next, practice. Now let's begin. Practice, if you go to your way to English or my way to English, Meshi Gateway, in the page or page 27 you will find this, and the first exercise will be about relative pronouns. So you will fill in the gaps with the right relative pronoun. And remember, as I said before, where's the camera? Here is the camera. Put it here. Remember, some we use them for people, and some we use them for things, objects, and some for possession, ownership, or الملكية. The boy, to women, but remember this, dog, and etc. etc. Yalla. Pause this video and take a few seconds, or a few minutes, of course, to answer. Right. Assuming you pause the video and you took a few seconds and you've answered it, let's get the answers. So what did you do in number 1? I expect you to have done who, of course. This is the boy who found your keys. Why? First, because we have the verb after, and who acts as a subject. Next, this or that's the woman whose dog won the race. Why? Because we're talking about ownership or possession, which means this dog belongs to this woman. Safi? Number 3. I assume you've done this. Which? The house in which Ibn Khaldun died is open to the public. So, because we have in, we usually use which, and because the house is also a thing. Right. Next, we want to visit Abouhou garden, in which we can see many types of flowers. We want to visit Abouhou garden. Abouhou gardens are in Agadir. They are built by the Portuguese, and Abouhou is a city in Portugal. They have done a twinship between Abouhou city in Portugal and Agadir city in Morocco. So Abouhou is a garden, a beautiful garden in Agadir, with a few flowers and a bridge in the middle. We want to visit Abouhou garden, in which we can see many types of flowers. Again, if you noticed, we have in which preposition plus which, and which refers to the thing, place, and so on. So in which, and then let's go to next. This is the man whose car was stolen yesterday. It's simply possession. It's simply possession. Why? Because we have car, belongs to the man, and so on. Next, the apartment whose windows are full of flowers is my brother's. This is again possession, which means these windows belong to the apartment, and that's it. And this car belongs to the man, and that's it. So this is first exercise about pronouns. Now let's go to exercises about restrictive and non-restrictive clauses. Next. Yes, here we are talking about, or we'll be talking about this, the clauses. All the clauses which are underlined, you tell me if they are important or not. If these are important or not. So this is what you're going to tell me, and that's it. Always remember that here is the rules. If you remember them, you'll get it done. Now, let's begin with number 1. Students who have bad marks will not succeed. This important. If this is important, you should do this here. If it's not important, you should do this. Okay? Yalla. Let's begin. Students who have bad marks will not succeed. Always remember, if the relative pronoun or if the relative clause helps us identify or know who we're talking about, we should keep it, which means it's important. If it's just additional information, then it's not important. Okay? Right. Take 5 minutes and try to get it done. Pause the video while you're doing that. Let's see your answers. Number 1. Students who have bad marks will not succeed. Important or not important? Alright. Let's see. It's important. Why? Because we cannot say students will not succeed. Not all the students will not succeed. Only those who have bad marks. So only the students who have bad marks who will not succeed. If you study hard, inshallah, you'll get your baccalaureate and you'll move on with your life, university life, etc. etc. So this is important. The next one, Agadir, which is a tourist city, is located in Sousse Valley. Important or not important? Yes, you're right. It's not important. Why? Because we can say Agadir is located in Sousse Valley without the need of saying that it is a tourist city. It's just additional information. Penguins, which are, if you remember what are penguins, they are these animals with, no, I'm not gonna draw it, so forget it. Cat, no. If you don't understand what's penguins or the sentence, let's help you with it. Are, yes. طيور البطريق التي هي طيوري المفضلة تعيش في الأراضي الثلجية. Right, so this is the sentence. واش هذيك التي هي طيوري المفضلة مهمة ولا مش مهمة? It's not important, so we can do without it. And this is the answer, of course. Penguins, which are my favorite birds, is not important. Living in Snowy Islands is enough. Next, people who People who live in London are called Londoners. Is this who live in London important or not? Can we say people are called Londoners? واش يمكننا نقولوا الناس سميتهم لندنيين؟ In NS, which means the question which people. That's why it's important and we have to keep it. Hold on. Oops, ديروا بحال ما شفتوا هذاك الجواب. بحال الكلاسروم بحال ما شفتوا الجواب اللي داز. So next, this carpet, which we bought last week, cost a lot of money. This carpet which we bought last week cost a lot of money. Is it important? Which we bought last week, is it important or not important? هاد السجادة اللي شريت الأسبوع الماضي كلفتني بزاف د الفلوس. So of course اللي شريتها الأسبوع الماضي ماشي مهم، اللي كاملة هو هاد السجادة غالية بزاف سيتو. So that's why if you realize this, let's keep this here. علاش؟ حيت قلنا هاد this carpet، هاديك this مهمة. علاش؟ حيت كنقولوا demonstrative which means this carpet. إلا قلت لك هاد السجادة راه غالية ما غاديش تقول لي أين سجادة، حيت قلت لك هاد which means this and ما كيهمناش اللي شريت الأسبوع الماضي ولا باش نعرفها راه ديجا معروفة. So let's move on. Next. It's not important. The woman whose husband is a lawyer مهمة ولا ماشي مهمة؟ Can we say the woman is my neighbor? No, we can't. Well, of course we can, but only if we know what we're talking about. اللي هضرنا عليها قبل في السياق. But if I say the woman is my neighbor, you will ask me again which woman. That's why the woman whose husband is a lawyer is important. So next, this is important, and that's it. Next, I couldn't find a box in which I keep my postcards. واش يمكن لينا نقولوا I couldn't find a box ونحبسو؟ غتقول لي which box. Donc the box in which I keep my postcards, هذيك in which I put my postcards, is very important. So this is also important. And then finally we have my house whose walls are painted white is at the end of Al-Hajb Street. Al-Hajb Street is a neighborhood in Tikiwin, so you don't have to ask. So نقدروا نقولوا منزلي يوجد في نهاية الحجب Street. Voilà. Why? Because usually people have one house in which they live in, somewhere they call home. Not too many homes, not important. And if you notice, those who are not important, we have commas. Not important, we have commas. Not important, we have commas. Now, first one is done. Let's move on to the next exercise. Again, in page 27, My Way to English, you'll find this part, and then let's do it. Now, the next exercise is about deciding whether the sentence is restrictive or non-restrictive, then put in commas where necessary, which means if it's non-restrictive or non-defining, we should put commas where we see fit. Let's see if we can do a translation here. So look at this. So Cristiano Ronaldo, who comes from Portugal, plays for Madrid. Cristiano Ronaldo, who comes from Portugal, plays for Real Madrid. يلعب عند الريال. شكرا هاد الانفورماسيون قديمة حيت هاد الكتاب صيبتو تقريبا في 4 هذيك داك. Alors هاد السنتنس هادي Cristiano Ronaldo, who comes from Portugal, plays for Real Madrid. أول حاجة غادي نلقاو the relative clause. So the first thing we have to do is to find the relative clause, and let's help you with that. The relative clause here is this one. Now, once we decide where is the restrictive clause or non-restrictive clause, we have to decide whether it's restrictive or non-restrictive. If it's non-restrictive, we have to put commas. If it's restrictive, we don't think, we just name it in here. Restrictive. So that's it. I'll help you with the first one and then you do the next one. Okay, let's help you with that. The first one, the answer is this is a non-restrictive clause. Why? Because everybody knows Cristiano Ronaldo. We don't have to say he is from Portugal. Cristiano Ronaldo, just like Coca-Cola, most people know him, perhaps except my mother, who knows. Now, since it is non-restrictive, we have to use commas. The first one we put in after Ronaldo and before who, and then after Portugal and before plays. And here they are. Now to you the next answers. Take 5 minutes and pause the video while you're doing it. Okay, assuming you've answered, so the next question, the woman whose husband is a lawyer lives next door to me. Yes, it is restrictive. Why? Because we cannot say the woman lives next door to me. We have to say which woman, whose husband is a lawyer. Next, Uncle Tom, who is a great traveler, went to Scotland yesterday. Non-restrictive. Why? Because who is a great traveler is just additional information we can do without, we can delete. We can say Uncle Thomas or Uncle Tom went to Scotland yesterday. Why? Simply because we usually have one uncle called Thomas with the same name. We don't have Uncle Thomas 1, Uncle Thomas 2. We have one uncle with the same name or with one name, and that's it. And then commas, we put them after Tom and before who, and then after traveler and before went. Next, the river which flows through our city is called Sus River. So yes, this is restrictive. Why? Because we cannot say the river is called Sus River unless we specify which one. The one that flows through our city. For example, Agadir, we have a river called Sus which flows through it, and it is called Sus River. So no commas. And then next, the cafe in which I first met my wife has closed down. And here we have restrictive because the cafe has closed down. You would ask the question, which cafe? So we have to identify, we have to restrict the cafe to one unique one, to one noun one, which is the one in which I first met my wife. Next, Agadir, which is a lovely city, offers a lot to see and to do to its visitors. Yes, it is non-restrictive because, as usual, which is a lovely city is just additional information, and we need commas after Agadir and before which, and then after city and before offers, the verb. The receptionist, who was an old lady, was very friendly. Some of you might get this wrong. Why? Because sometimes we only have one receptionist if it's one hotel, if it's a small hotel, but here we usually have many, so this is non-restrictive. Why? Because who was an old lady is just additional information to describe her. Sometimes we can call this as well restrictive. Why? Because we usually have 3 receptionists, one working by night and one working by day, and sometimes a couple of them in a desk of the reception. One is handling passports and one is handling passengers and luggage, and so on and so forth. So the receptionist, who is an old lady, looks a little bit like additional information, so we need commas. That's it for this. And now let's go to the last practice, which is joining the sentences using the relative pronoun which, whose, and who. And we should add commas if necessary. So this exercise, you just need to look at it, take 5 minutes and get back to me after pausing the video. Yes, assuming you've done it, let's answer. I met a friend, her husband is a lawyer. Of course. Here we have, I met a friend whose husband is a lawyer. Why? Because we have husband belonging to a friend, and we used her to say it belonged to her. Now, I met a friend whose husband is a lawyer. It's not needing any commas. Rashid Louali, he is my favorite actor. He lives in Rabat. Yes, Rashid Louali, who is my favorite actor, lives in Rabat. So, who is my favorite actor is not important. We can say simply Rashid Louali lives in Rabat. Next, they bought an LCD TV. It was really expensive. So this is it. They bought an LCD TV which was really expensive. And then this house, it belongs to my brother. It has 4 bedrooms. The answer, we have it belongs, and it belongs usually means possession. So the answer is this house which belongs to my brother has 4 bedrooms. Non-restrictive clause with commas. So remember the rules and move on to the last part, which is about production. Production is in your Way to English, in my Way to English booklet. Here, in this part, production, you will find it exactly like this in your booklet. And it's simply a little game I have played with art students since second back. I have to do a little recap of what we have done. So remember, restrictive clauses identify the person or thing we're talking about, or that is being talked about. They are essential to understand or to know who or what we're talking about. And then non-restrictive clauses give additional information. They are used with commas and can be deleted. They are not important. Remember, restrictive clauses, they are also called defining clauses. And non-restrictive clauses, they are also called non-defining relative clauses. So that's it for today. Thank you very much. For the students who, well, I think almost all my students got my Way to English. And since you got it, for those who, because sometimes you share the book, both of you, those who didn't, you can find the link to My Way to English on Google Drive, in which you will follow the lessons if you haven't printed that already. And My Way to English, as you know, it's here. Where is it? Where is it? My Way, grammar restrictive. So go on documents. Yes, project My Way to English. Now I'm not gonna open it using this. I'm gonna try to open it using with the camera. Open as text. I'll open it as Word. So I'll turn this around. Next, accept, close. No thanks. I'll turn this around and this is it. So My Way to English has lots of exercises. It's very useful for second baccalaureate students, especially at this period in which we have all to stay home and then revise. I've made some modifications to it, and then so we have text. All the texts are from the second baccalaureate national exams, and all the questions, they are like this. And then Yes, part of grammar has gerund versus infinitive. You can practice from here. And then it has also practice of the past perfect, simple perfect, past perfect, and so on. And the lesson as well. Then present perfect in case. And passive voice, the rules, etc., etc. Reported speech of both tense shifting and reporting verbs, and so on and so forth. This is all about practice part for reported speech. And then the use of time expressions and so on. Then the lesson we did today is here. And this is a lot of hard work to do this. Use of words, local words like agadir, like hajj, tudra, whatever, and so on and so forth. This is what we did today. And then relative pronouns. So more practice before relative clauses, restrictive and non-restrictive. Then we have phrasal verbs part 1. And then we have, this is all in national exams. And then we have all the phrasal verbs mentioned in the books of Ticket to English, Insight to English, and Gateway to English, and the pages in which they are mentioned. So phrasal verbs, in case you want to go and try to find them, pages of Ticket, and so on and so forth. Here is the practice, and here is more practice. Then my way to prefixes and suffixes. So and exercises, and then my way to wishes and regrets. My way to wishes and regrets, the rules, as well as practice. And then conditional type 3. My way to conditional type 3, we have the form, rules, as well as practice. And then we have my way to modal verbs, each with its rules, examples, and then practice. And then we have complementary exercises for reported speech, for future perfect, etc., etc. Mixed tenses, this is very important because sometimes you have in national exams questions as in mixed tenses. For example, all of the past perfect, present perfect, simple past, past perfect, continuous, etc., etc. Then active passive voice practice for review. You try to remember the rules and then you see if you can answer. Then we have functions. Functions, still working on this part, but we have expressing purpose. This is an old lesson, but it's still good anyway. And then we have expressing purpose, more exercises. When you're done with this, you can do this too. And then you have making, well, agreeing and disagreeing. So we have the expressions, then you classify them or categorize them in this chart, and after that you answer the questions. Then we have asking and giving opinion again with exercises. We have already done this. And then making and responding to request. And then we have national exams. National exams, we have them like this for functions. For example, you have to decide whether this sentence is disagreeing or giving opinion, request, or disagreeing, and so we're asking for opinion. And then we have, if you notice, we have 2 pages per page or per paper. 2 pages per page to save time and money and printing for students. Then we have defining, and then we have responding to good and bad news. This lesson we're going to do it in Gateway to English in Unit 10. Then we have cause and effect, as well as, well, cause and effect. We've done this. So, for example, leads to is the result of, results from, is due to, things like this. Or then one cause of is and one effect of. Functions, more of them, national exams, concession, and so on. We've just done it in Unit 8. And then making, responding to apology. and try to familiarize yourselves with these titles, apology and so on, because otherwise when you have a question, for example, you have the sentence that's too graphic. If you didn't know that it is about good news, or for example concession, if there is although and you don't know what does concession mean, then this sentence is gone, 1 point is gone. Then making and responding to apology practice, and then expressing certainty and uncertainty. This lesson we're going to do it in unit 9, asking for clarification and interacting and so on and so forth. Then we have concession contrast, and then we have exercise of back exams, which means grammar only language. So we have this, if you can see the phrasal verbs, etc., and more national exams, just the grammar. And then comes the part which is about writing. So writing, we have all these models. Here, for example, for argumentative, we say for cause and effect. For cause and effect, just for example, fill in the blanks with the topic between brackets. The topic, which is, for example, dropping out of school is an issue of controversial opinion that raises different questions. Nowadays, more and more students drop out of school. So what are the causes and consequences of this phenomenon? And what are the adequate solutions to fighting? In fact, one of the main causes of dropping out of school is that many people don't realize the importance of school until it's too late, and then blah blah blah, etc. Then we have other models, fill in the blanks, the issue of whatever is, and so on and so forth. And then we have contrast, comparison, and so on and so forth. Then we have this lesson of applying for a grant, which we don't have in Gateway to English, and we don't have in Insight to English. These books don't have it, but it is only in Ticket to English. So that's why I have it in My Way to English, so that students would benefit from it in case it's used in national exams. So it is, so here it is. And then we have this in writing, which means expressions. What are they? Are they addition to express addition, and so on and so forth. Although, as a result, to sum up, where should we put these cause and effect, reason, consequences, and things like this? Despite, in spite of, and stuff like this, the battery is still struggling. And then exercises with that. Complete the following sentences using what we've done before, which is on the top, and then writing a paragraph. Then we have all the useful expressions we use in writing. For example, if to say to start, we say at first, at the beginning, first of all, firstly, to contrast ideas, though, although, but, despite the fact that, either, or, even if, and so on and so forth. Conclusion, to insist, as I have noted, and as I have said, to show similarity in similar manner, in the same way, likewise similarity. And then we have basic paragraph writing. What is the topic sentence? Where is the concluding sentences? And then organize the paragraph. And also, here they are. And then, for example, write this paragraph the same, replacing Canada with Morocco. There are 3 reasons why Canada is one of the best countries. So you would say, for example, there are 3 reasons why Morocco is one of the best countries in Africa, whatever. Punctuation, teaching with songs. This is, well, you might not need it for national exams preparation, but these songs are the best there is. And I've prepared all the PowerPoint presentations for them, which you can find in my Google Drive or also in my YouTube channel. So that's it. And then we go to previous national exams. So it's the latest. So these are the latest national exams, 2019, 2017, etc. And they are the best. national exams which inspire students to reading, to writing. For example, here we have Shumisha, and in the next one we should have somebody inspiring like Gandhi or Martin Luther King, and somebody else inspiring, for example, whom? Well, this is technology, which is also inspiring to students, selfie and so on. This is national exam 2017. And we have, for example, inspiring women in Morocco. And this part is also very, very important. It's to help you deal with national exams and more. So there is some help in Arabic, طريقة الإجابة على أسئلة الامتحان الوطني, and so on and so forth. So, for example, we have إذا كان السؤال يبدأ ب how, we have to answer by, فالإجابة تكون by, and so on, and things like this. And, for example, lots of other things. Now we're running off battery. Download it if you want, and then it'll help you for sure. Who is used for people, subject, the woman who came to the party yesterday was my aunt. So the lesson we did today, there is a part of it here, which means if you read this part of how to prepare for national exams, you might have an idea about restrictive and non-restrictive clauses already. And yes, which for الغير العاقل and who's for position الملكية, etc, etc. Then expressions, purpose, تعبير, so as to, in order to, so as to, and so on. And then إضافة, addition, in addition, and so on. And then طلب توضيح, تعبير عن فهم, and so on, like asking for clarification. هذا مهم بزاف. These are very important because if you don't know what is asking for clarification, and then you have a sentence in functions in that box in the chart, and you don't know the title, then you won't be able to match the sentence with it. دونك العناوين مهمين. إلا ما عرفتش شنو هي asking for clarification ولا expressing misunderstanding ما غاديش يمكن لك تعرف كيفاش تربط الجملة بالجواب ديالها. يعني نعطيك for example what do you mean by في داك الجدول ديال functions. دونك إلا ما عرفتش بلي راه asking for clarification ولا ما عرفتش شنو هو، اش كتعني هذا العنوان، شنو كيعني هذا العنوان هذا، يعني غالبا محل جواب إلا قدرتي وانت وزهرك الله يسخر. So expressing regret and so on. وفي الأخر كاينين irregular verbs يمكن لك تحفظهم، كاينين في الأخر الكتاب، وكاين تمارين عليهم. and then كاين السمري ديال الفوكابولاري، كاع الفوكابولاري المهمين في الدوزيام باك في الوطني هما هادو and so on and so forth. دونك هادشي كيصوني. alors good luck to you and فوالا، والله يفكنا من هذا الوباء هذا اللي حرم علينا كل شيء. good luck to you. bye bye.